Hey fans, did you know that 4-Star Sports Media now has a YouTube channel? You can catch exclusive content covering all things Memphis Tigers and the Arkansas Razorbacks. Shows like The Point, and the only show on social media about the Arkansas Razorbacks that is purely fan-driven, Inside the Hog Pen. Plus other shows like The Hog Trough, The 4-Star Sports Show, and many more coming soon. So check them out today. Go on YouTube.com and search 4-Star Sports Media.
Hello, college basketball fans, and welcome to the NCAA March Madness edition. I'm Wes Pruitt. Got Jason Patterson with me. Jason, how you doing tonight, man?
Great, Wes. How you doing tonight?
Man, can't complain. March Madness is here, Jason. Before we get started, though, got to send everybody over to our website, 4star.live. That's where you can find all of the content for us here at 4-Star Sports Media. Got articles, got podcasts, got a little bit of everything, man. Great stuff over there at 4-Star. And Jason, just off Markham, got some interesting things going on as well over there.
Yeah, most definitely. Here coming up here in a couple of weeks, we're going to have part 2 of our interview with Greg Thomas coming up. He's also going to have a couple of former teammates on as well, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. He's got, I do believe, Rock Foreman and Limbo Parks that are going to be joining us, and they're going to be swapping stories, hearing some of this, some stories that you may never have heard of while these guys were on campus. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope y'all can check it out.
Oh, most definitely, man. It's going to be a great time, Jason. I'm really looking forward to it. I tell you what, man, March Madness is here, buddy. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I guess the first question of the night, Jason, is pretty simple, and that is your bracket busted?
Kind of, sort of, but I'm going to tell you what, man. This is my favorite time of the year. When is the last time, other than maybe a Saturday game, Saturday, anywhere between end of December and the first part of November, where you can sit there and just fully encapsulate basketball from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. and just sit there and vegetate and take it in and see matchups that you never would have possibly seen other than a 2-day period that we're in the middle of right now. I mean, we're literally in the middle of some of the best basketball that we can hope for. My bracket did get busted, but there are some that did. Nobody saw Furman coming up and biting Virginia. Nobody did. I mean, all it took was one errant pass and one quick three. That was it. And then you look at the Princeton game and how that kind of transpired with Arizona. Nobody saw that one coming too. So you look at some of these games that people kind of already had maybe Arizona penciled in. They had a hell of a run in the Pac-12 this year. They gave UCLA everything that they had all season long in the standings, also head to head, also in the conference tournament. And for them to get knocked out within the first 12 hours of this tournament shocked a lot of people.
Oh, no question. When you look, by the way, I did pick Furman. I did pick Furman and knocked them off today. Did not pick Princeton, nor did I think anybody else did, honestly, besides Princeton people. That makes sense. But, man, I tell you, I think I saw a stat earlier. It said 0.014% of brackets out of 20 million are still perfect. It's a gamble, no pun intended, every year. But when you look at Virginia, you just talked about them. I saw a stat earlier today. They're now 1-4 in their last first round game. As a matter of fact, this is the day that they got beat back in 2018 when they lost. They were the first ever number 1 seed to lose. So If you're a Virginia fan and you
Yeah.
play basketball on March 16th, don't put any money on that game because your team has some very, very bad luck.
Let me pose you a question I saw on Facebook, Wes, and I think that I actually didn't see it on Facebook. I saw it on the Arkansas cast. Put Memphis in this spot for a second. They lose to Baltimore, Maryland, or UMBC, University of Maryland, Baltimore County is a 16 versus 1. They back that up with a national championship the very next year. And then they get bounced 2 straight years in a row by a 13 seed. As a Memphis fan, if that happened to the Tigers, would you take that?
There's a natty in there, man. I mean,
I know.
you know what I'm
That's
saying?
the
I
hard
mean,
part.
there's a national championship involved, but at the same time,
Mhm.
this is what makes this time from March to April, this month of literal madness. This is what makes it so exciting, and this is what really, in my opinion, this is what is the draw to it and the aura behind it is because you get one game. It's on a neutral floor. You get one game. Well, unless you're Auburn or Alabama right now, it's on a neutral floor, but that happens every year. Um, it's one game, and we've seen twice today already that top teams can get knocked out. I mean, full disclosure, I had Arizona going to the Final Four in a good bit of my brackets. I think the head coach coming over from Gonzaga is an incredible head coach, and I think he's going to continue to do well with Arizona. But something about those Pac-12 teams, man. You think back to Stanford a few years back when Rick Majerus was at Utah as well, just to show my age a little bit there. But
That's all good. I'm the same.
those
I
guys,
mean, I was
man.
there with you too, man.
I mean, they've always kind of flouted out.
Yeah, and it's really hard to be prepared for a team so quickly because the coaching staffs for each team are preparing for teams that they've seen year in and year out for how many years? And you're doing that for essentially 2.5 months to get turned on your head on Sunday and prepare for a game on Thursday. And I think that's one of the reasons why, for instance, Matt Painter over at Purdue, he's had problems. Rick Barnes is Rick Barnes is Rick Barnes. Can never count them in a game, not out, but in a game until that final buzzer is sounded. And I think that's where some folks like Eric Musselman, for instance, thrives. That's his. I know folks like to go back and say, look at the way that he was able to set up a game plan in such a short amount of time because of his professional experience. I don't believe it's all from professional experience. You have to look at his dad, for instance. He saw what the preparation it took whenever his dad was at Minnesota, when his dad was coach for the Timberwolves. He understood from a young age on how to develop and maturate a game plan so quickly. And that's where he holds some of the keys that some of these coaches may not be able to, they haven't had the privilege of walking through those steps for such a long period of time. Eric's in his 50s, man. I know these guys are in their 40s and 50s too, but this guy's been doing it since he was probably before he was the age of 10. And he's been seeing this and how it affects some of these coaches that have to, prepare a game plan so quickly. He's able to turn that out a lot faster than them and more thoroughly. You look at this matchup with Kansas for just a second. Bill Self was not available today because he had a procedure last week and missed the Big 12 tournament because of a health issue. I'm not going to speculate on that. Bottom line is that Bill Self wasn't there today. Will he be available for Saturday? We don't know yet.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yep.
So self against Howard today, you can live without him. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas against
Mm-mm.
Kansas, I don't know, man. As you mentioned, Muss is different when it comes to tournament time. Maybe not SEC tournament. No harsh feelings there. Maybe not SEC tournament, but when you look at it from an NCAA standpoint, Muss he's a proven winner. He's been to how many Elite Eights? Two back to back.
Yep.
So when you look at Eric Musselman, you look at the job he's done. Speaking of the job he's done, Jason, the Hogs get a big win today, buddy. Very nice win.
Mm-hmm.
Hogs get a 73-63 win over the number 9 ranked Illinois, the Fighting Illini, I should say. But man, so Jason, let's break this game down a little bit, man. A lot of Arkansas fans coming into this game were very, I'll use the term ho hum about the game. Oh, we could, obviously you get the we could win, we could lose deal, but I'll be honest with you, man. Arkansas today, they came out 3:30 tip off. They came out and they played really well. They put two halves together, something that you really haven't really seen from this Arkansas team, at least this season. But when you look at a couple of guys that really stood out, man, first off is Ricky Council. So talk a little
Yep.
bit about Ricky today.
He was kind of a saving grace from the free throw line. That's the first thing that stuck out to me. Arkansas was 22 of 29 from the free throw line, just a little under 76% for the game. Ricky had 11 of those 22 free throws. When you look at the team as a whole over these last 2 weeks, and if you're a Razorback fan, you're cringing when you see them go to the free throw line because you literally don't know what you were going to get. And you have a player of Ricky's stature that is a junior. He's been through a little bit of those wars. He knows kind of the way around the block a little bit, knowing that if his shot's not falling, which it wasn't today, he was. Let's see, Ricky, he was 3 of 9 from the field, and you see him try to find ways to get to the basket, create points for his team, and make sure that he's helping keep his team in it. Arkansas had only 6 second chance points tonight to Illinois' 5, so to me that's a wash. But the biggest point that I think one of the biggest things that I can take away from Ricky's play tonight is one, how he was able to defend the ball. He also had, let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to get back up to this thing here. He had 10 rebounds, man. 10 rebounds. He had a double-double. He had 8 defensive rebounds. He had 2 offensive rebounds. And Arkansas, for a total, had 32 defensive rebounds. Illinois missed 32 shots total. They were not getting any second chance points, which was what Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn, Texas A&M, those teams were living off of Arkansas second chance points that they were giving up. And Arkansas cut that out. And we talked about that a little bit too on ITHP. That's going to be one of the keys to a roadmap of getting Arkansas to a win tonight. And they executed that game plan perfectly.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they really did. I mean, when you look at Arkansas, you look at Devo Davis tonight, 16 points, 50% from the field, all in 30 minutes, 2 of 4, 50% from the field for the whole game. I mean, from the
Yep.
field and from the three. And when you look at Devo, he had 2 big back-to-back threes late in the second half, which really, really catapulted Arkansas to that 10-point win. And Jason, you look forward if you're an Arkansas fan, and we just talked about it. Kansas is up next Saturday. Not sure what time the tip is yet. It'll be announced
Yep.
tonight once all the games finish up. But uh, You look at Kansas; they're a number 1 seed. Arkansas comes in as an 8 seed. If you look at it historically, that 8-1 matchup, it's not a bad stat when you look at the 8 seed, man. So talk a little bit about Arkansas, but first, talk a little bit about Kansas. Obviously, we know Bill Self, defending national champion, all of that. Um, Arkansas's got a shot because they're playing really good basketball right now.
Not only are they playing good basketball, I think they have the potential to play great basketball on Saturday. The reason why is that Arkansas's lineup is very similar to the way Kansas's makeup is as well. You're going to see Devo Davis, his primary guy for Saturday is going to be Grady Dick, freshman from Wichita, Kansas. And where Kansas go or Grady Dick goes is where Kansas goes for this with this team this year. If you looked at his stat line, that guy filled it up. And there was no answer for him today. And so he kind of ran wild, and that's why you saw that huge that huge point discrepancy on the scoreboard today, because he was able to dictate the pace, he was able to distribute, and he was able to get guys in the right spots to make such easy baskets. Now let's look at Devo Davis for a second. That's what he's been doing all season. He has been the primary guard on the number 1 scorer on opposing team's offense. And when you put a guy like Devo Davis that has such intense defensive prowess, it makes everything so much harder for you. Look at Nick Smith today. Nick Smith, 6'5" guard. And what did Brad Underwood do? And I talked about this too. Another piece of this is a chess match between Brad Underwood and Eric Musselman. Brad Underwood puts a 6'7" forward that's almost as fast or right as fast as Nick Smith Jr. is. And that's the reason why Nick had such a hard day today. He's not used to seeing such large guards guard him. Kind of took him out of that rhythm a little bit, but he was still able to be effective on the floor.
He was, and you're exactly right. He's not used to seeing that length at all. Because that's a long wingspan going against a guy that's used to seeing somebody his same size, his frame. But Jason, when you look at Arkansas, I think they have a really good chance to move forward in the tournament. We're going to take a look at a team next that is just starting, is the Memphis Tigers as they take on number 9 Florida Atlantic. Jason, we'll start with Florida Atlantic, man. What do you know about the what do you know about the Hooters? I mean, Owls.
Hey, if I'm not mistaken, that's where this is the same state where Hooters was originated from in the first place. So that is their origin. So, and they are the Owls, but Florida Atlantic was kind of a juggernaut this year. They're 31-3 on the season, and you kind of look at how this is going to shape up a little bit, and you kind of scratch your head a little bit, because you have Florida Atlantic, which comes out of, if I'm not mistaken, Conference USA, and you look at Memphis in the AAC, and Memphis had they had a harder schedule than Florida Atlantic, even though Florida Atlantic was piling up wins this year. I think that Memphis is more battle tested than Florida Atlantic is, because whenever you get a smaller school like that has a 31-3 record, my guess is more nights than not, you're going to be playing some cream puffs. Guys that you're able to throw around a little bit, talk some trash into, rent free headspace in that defense, and frustrate them. And you can't just discount what Florida Atlantic did, but at the same time, you look at it, for instance, they played Rice. When was the last time we heard Rice talk about Rice basketball? And they drummed them by 30. You got UAB, not that good. Western Kentucky, they used to be pretty good, but they're kind of falling off now. Middle Tennessee State. When you look at some of these teams that they're facing, and then you look at the teams that Memphis is facing, it's almost comparing apples and oranges, because I don't think FAU is going to be as battle tested as Memphis has been.
Oh, I 110% agree. Looking at the two, let's just put it this way, man. Memphis took on Houston 2 times, 1 week's period, and one was for the American Athletic Conference Championship, and the other one was for a conference championship. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's nuts, man. But let's really look at this Memphis matchup. Man, the Tigers come in with a 26-8 record, as you stated. Florida Atlantic comes in with a 31-3 record. Big time ball game tomorrow night, man. 8:20 from Columbus, Ohio, where the Tigers are back in the tournament for the first time, or for the second straight season. They're also ranked 24th in the AP poll. I saw earlier during the tournament they were doing during the pre-show or during one of the half times, whichever one it was. Mm-hmm. They were doing the perfect team to win the tournament, and it's like, oh, if you didn't win your conference, if you had a losing record in conference, we're going to take you out. And then if you were never ranked in the AP top 25, we're going to take you out. And they put an X on Memphis. Well, technically not. We are technically, I say Memphis is technically ranked 24th right now. But, man, I tell you what, the Tigers won 14 of their final 17 games to win the conference championship and become an automatic qualifier. Now, when you look around the country and you look at teams and you think about past history, Jason, think about all the teams that played really well coming into the tournament. I don't know of a hotter team, and if you know, please let me know. I don't know of a hotter team in the nation right now than Memphis.
To me, there's only maybe 2, maybe 3 teams that stick out. One, I know this is going to be a little crazy, but yes, I still firmly believe it. One is UCLA. They're one. Alabama, of course. Gonzaga. Maybe Houston, and then Memphis. And when I look at some of these teams and kind of like what you were talking about with rack and stack and the criteria of what a national championship winner has been in the past, the one thing that I look at is how long have you been in the AP top 10, and do you have more or you have less than 6 losses? Those are the 2 big things. Again, the only teams and I think that with the criteria that I look at, Gonzaga, UCLA, Texas doesn't fit that bill. Kansas doesn't fit that bill. Purdue does, but again, do you really think Purdue is going to make such a deep run? History says no. Well, that's to be seen. But again, a couple of outliers. I do believe that Memphis does have a hard road, just like Arkansas does. But at the same time, they are battle tested, and it is doable.
It's definitely doable, especially with a guy by the name of Kendrick Davis, who scored 31 to close out the season.
That guy is Houston.
And then you got a guy on the other side of him named DeAndre Williams that had 16 and 16 points, 13 rebounds in the last game. Also, fun fact, these 2 teams will be conference foes beginning in 2023 when FAU joins the American from CUSA. So these 2 teams have only met one time, Jason. That was February 3rd, 1993 in Memphis, which was at that point in time, the Bass Pro Shops was a thing called the Pyramid. And it was called the Tomb of Doom is what the moniker was. And the Tigers came away with a 96-46 win. So, Jason, I asked this question: do you see a route again tomorrow night?
I don't think you see a route, but I do see it being a 10-point game coming down to the last 5 minutes of the game. I do believe that FAU is going to, I mean, let's just put it this way. And this is kind of, I've used this analogy before growing up. Some of these smaller schools remind me of smaller high schools in a way. They're going to give you all sorts of hell for a half, and then they peter out a little bit. And then talent, size, and length start to take over. I think that that's what happens with FAU and Memphis tomorrow night, is that Memphis is going to get a huge tussle. And it may not be first 10 minutes of the game. It may be the middle 20 minutes of the game where FAU starts to catch fire a little bit. They may even take a lead on Memphis for a hot second. But I think that overall, at the end of the day, Memphis's size, length, experience is going to take over.
Yeah, I think so too, Jason. I mean, and then like you said, I think there's three factors in this game. I think you look at Penny Hardaway and you look at how he's got this team playing right now. Plus, you look at Penny Hardaway, who last season had a nice little run and ended up giving Gonzaga all they wanted. Then you take in, like I just said, Kendrick Davis, DeAndre Williams. You talked about it. They're extremely battle tested. They just knocked off the number one team in the nation in their last game, number one seed Houston, by the way. And there's a little bit of historical feeling to this NCAA tournament. Jason, do you know what happened in the 1972-1973 season?
No, not off the top of my head.
1972 and 1973, the national championship game was played between the Memphis State Tigers and the UCLA Bruins. Memphis at the time was in the direction of the third-year head coach, Gene Bartow. Name may ring a bell to a lot of people. And he made a historic run and saw the Tigers knock off South Carolina, Kansas State, and Providence on the way to a national championship game. And they ran into John Wooden and a guy by the name of Bill Walton, if anybody's ever heard of that guy.
That name rings a bell, but I'm not sure who he is. I heard he's kind of a kooky guy.
But if you and the funny thing is, there's actually a story. There's a story that supposedly Bill Walton the night before went to a concert and smoked a lot of joints. And they said that the next day when he said the next day when he played the game, he was actually feeling a little bit, he said, under the weather for the game. Yeah, it's so there's a little bit of historical, feel to this season, Jason. When you look at the way Memphis has played, my personal opinion is that Memphis gets the win against Florida Atlantic and probably matches up against a Purdue team that I think Memphis matches up extremely well against. And then if you look at the bracket, there's a chance to play Tennessee. There's another opportunity possibly to play Kentucky, a Marquette team coached by Shaka Smart that's playing really good ball right now too. But we're talking specifically about the Memphis Tigers. Jason Patterson's joined us tonight talking all things March Madness here on the 4-Star Sports Radio Network. Jason, talking Memphis Tigers, big matchup tomorrow night, 8:20 Central Time against Florida Atlantic. How far can this team go? Because I honestly do believe this team has the opportunity and the capability to go very deep in this tournament.
If I'm not trying to speak in, saying that they could or could not, but if Memphis does get past FAU tomorrow night, they will be going against Purdue. And one of the biggest factors that Memphis has going for them is the fast break and getting out in space and getting in transition and making Zach Edey all 7'4" of him and taking him out of the game. If they can take him out of the game, they have a great chance because their guards line up extremely well with Purdue's guards. Yes, Zach Edey's going to probably get his, But if you can win the transition points game, I think Memphis has got a chance.
Could not agree more, my friend. Could not agree more. 110% right, in my opinion. Like I say, this is my opinion. This is his opinion. Just get that out of the way.
My opinion, man. What are
Jason,
you talking about? I
we
know
got a
everything.
few more
Damn,
things
Wes.
to talk about, man. My question is this: who is the Cinderella that is either in the tournament now and may have made a run, a la Princeton, a la Furman, or is there one that we haven't talked about yet that's going to get cranked up tomorrow that could possibly make some noise?
I got two teams, and they are ranked a little. I think their seating is high a little bit. There's two teams that are flying super, super under the radar. One, Miami. That team is explosive. Jim Larinaga has got those guys just keyed up at the right time. I mean, it's perfect. The storm that he has got those guys in right now, because they're extremely hard to stop in transition, just like Memphis, for instance, like we've talked about. But those guys can score in clumps like Alabama does. So that makes them extremely dangerous. Second team, and I hate to say this. I really hate to say this, but I got to give John Calipari a little bit of credit, because them old boys have been flying under the radar. Under the radar. You look at Severe Wheeler. He's been out for how many games? He comes back. Wallace, the freshman, he comes back. And then you got Oscar Sheboy throwing bows everywhere, not getting him called like he had over here at Bud Walton Arena a couple weeks ago. I think that Kentucky can also make a run, because this time there's no spotlight on them. They are not a 2 seed getting beat by some 15 seed that probably has as much money as Calipari's 1 month check in their entire budget. I think that honestly Kentucky could make a run, because they do have I don't have any spotlight on them. They're flying under the radar. And if they make it to the second weekend, okay, yeah, then they're going to have the spotlight, and we'll see if they falter or not. But at this time, I think that Kentucky also is flying under the radar.
Man, it's just kind of hard to root for Cal. I'm just gonna be honest with you, man. It's just kind of difficult to root for that guy. By the way, Daniel Ball commented just a couple of times over on the Heritage Fence live fan feedback. Hey, by the way, guys, if you need fence in the Memphis area, reach out to my guys Corey McCrone, John Michael Holly. They will get you taken care of on fences, commercial, residential. You got a swimming pool, need a little security fence around it. Wham! Reach out to my guys, Heritage Fence. They will get you taken care of. We thank you. We thank them for their sponsorship for us here at 4-Star Sports Media. Let's jump over in the comment section real quick. Daniel Ball says, big men with skills are troublesome for the Tigers, but other teams don't have a Kendrick Davis, and he is a X factor. Daniel, you are 150% correct. There's no one else in the nation that has that kid. It was very, very fun last week, Jason, for us to be involved in the American Athletic Conference tournament. We're actually going to talk women's hoops here in just a second as well. But you're 100% right, Daniel. Always. By the way, Cal is great at under promising and over delivering. You're right. Now I will be honest, Jason. There's probably a little bit of Memphis biasness there, just a smidge probably. But
That's okay,
Daniel,
though.
you're exactly right. By the way, if you guys want to listen to an incredible, and I stand on this, if you guys want to listen to an incredible college baseball podcast, reach out to these guys. They're called In Off the Bench. They're incredible. They're interviewing the best of the best around the nation. They know the game of college baseball. They know all sports, but they dig into the college baseball sports. Reach out to those guys, man. In Off the Bench. Check them out on Spotify, Twitter, all that. Daniel, that's a free plug. It's cool, buddy. I got you, man. Love you guys' show. But Jason, back to Memphis, man. Or I'm sorry, back to the Cinderella, man. I tell you what, I think there's a couple out there, man. I really do. I think a team like a Iona going against a UConn. You look at Rick Pitino back in the tournament again We know
I've got them
Pitino
beating
is
UConn.
very, very, very experienced in the tournament. Look for
Yep.
Iona to maybe shake some things up in the tournament. And I mean, there's always that one, I mean, St. Peter's, for example, you were referring to earlier, the
Yep.
Peacocks, for example, did a little. Then there was so many funny memes last year. That peacock chasing Calipari.
That was
I
awesome.
mean, that's so funny.
There were.
But
There were.
yeah, hey, I don't want to get in trouble. He had a fan removed for having a sign. But anyway, it's cool. When he ends up in Austin, Texas, it'll all make sense. But yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. There's multiple teams out there. Sorry, we kind of got off the rails there. There's multiple teams in this tournament that can really make a run. Jason, speaking of two teams that are in a tournament, and I didn't build banners for this. I'm sorry, buddy. We've got a little women's NIT action going on right now between the Ladybacks, between the Arkansas Ladybacks and the, I guess it would be called the Lady, I don't know,
Lady Texters.
Lady Bulldogs, Louisiana Tech. They're taking on Louisiana Tech right now. But Arkansas is currently up 42-33 with 3 minutes and 50 seconds left to go in the third quarter. Hogs are currently shooting 35% from the field, 33% from 3, 7 of 21, 88% from the line, 7 of 8. And they have 6 turnovers and 24. They're losing on the rebounding side, 29-24 at the moment. Currently leading the Hogs, Chrissy Carr has 12 points. This is one of my favorite names in all of basketball, all of sports anyway. Poffenbarger has 5 rebounds, and also Samar Spencer has 4 assists as well. So the Lady Memphis Tigers, coached by Katrina Merriweather, second season, doing an amazing job over at Memphis. They are currently taking on Jackson State at Elm Fieldhouse before a sold out, Jason. They sold that puppy out tonight at Elm Fieldhouse, but the Tigers are up 53-38 right now. Tigers are shooting 38% from the field, 19 of 50. Dang, they've already shot 50 shots. 41% from 3 and 82% from the free throw line. Jamara shoots. Funny story about Jamara shoots. I'll say it in just a second. But Jamara is leading right now with 20 points. Hannah Riddick is leading rebounding with 7. And then Shoots again is leading with the assist with 3. Jason, did you know that in the last time meeting between these two teams, it was Jamara Shoots' freshman year. It was also her debut as a Tiger. The Tigers came back and won the game in overtime behind her 20 points.
Wow. Man, there's a little bit of history there. She's taking care of business. She's making good on her promise every time go out. Coach Merriweather, pack the place. We'll give you a show. That's what she's giving to him right now. And you have a Memphis Tiger team that you and I talked about during the AAC tournament that they needed to get out to a quick start. Against Tulane, also against their last game, the team escapes me. Pardon? Which one was it? I can't remember off the top of my head.
East Carolina.
ECU, yes. So we talked about this, that they needed to get off of that 8-point per quarter slide that they kind of started to have first, second quarter, not scoring any more than 10 points because those slow starts were causing them to go uphill, and they were having to, for a better term, claw and scratch their way back into the game. But you look at tonight, they flipped the script. First quarter, 23 points, 23. That is double what they had scored in the last 2 games in the first half each time. They come out and Coach Merriweather, I think that she had a very resounding message for this team. We didn't make the NCAA tournament, and we're going to show them why we should have. We're going to show them that our fans are the best. We're also going to show them that we're not going to take any crap from them, from the NCAA, because we got left out. Also Arkansas. but they're playing with passion tonight, and Coach Merriweather had them just ready to go.
Man, I tell you what, Jason, and you know this. We've been talking to her. We've been really talking to her all season through Twitter and other ways. But we had a chance to be involved in some post game press conferences this past week. We spoke with her about being the first ever African American head coach in the history of the university when it comes to women's basketball. Jason, in today's game, in today's women's basketball, you see prominent African American coaches such as Don Staley and others. But when you look at the quote unquote up and coming coaches around the country, Memphis has one right now in the fold in Katrina, but also her sister who is on staff, and then also Abby Jump who is on staff. The staff she's compiled is young, and they are freaking talented, man, and they're recruiting at a prolific pace right now for Memphis. When you look around the country, you look at what Memphis has done this year, 20-10, now 20-11 coming into tonight's game, but an incredible turnaround for them. Let's flip over back to Arkansas, if you don't mind, real quick, Jason. Hogs right now are up 46-37 with a minute and a half to go in third. When you look at this Arkansas team, Mike Neighbors, not the most successful season in some eyes here in Fayetteville and around Hog Nation. But when you look at Mike Neighbors, he's another guy who's a very talented coach and has done a pretty good job of recruiting. It's very difficult. It's difficult to win in college basketball anyway. But then you throw in the SEC and the level of competition that it brings. From a non-biased perspective, Jason, what do you think of the job that Mike Neighbors has done so far at Arkansas? And before you say, I do want to say, I think Neighbors has done an incredible job. And I don't want this to sound mean, but I think he's done a really good job with what he had to pretty much take over.
I'm going to be a little critical here for just a moment, because you look at the amount of talent that he has started to bring in, and you don't know if some of these players were under or overvalued a little bit with their star ratings. Arkansas men's and women's teams this year were on the same trajectory. First off, they had extremely talented rosters. They had some preseason hype. The only difference is that Mike Neighbors didn't have 3 McDonald's All-Americans like Coach Musselman did. I honestly believe that is the difference why Arkansas men's is in the NCAA tournament and the women are in the NIT tournament. Because if you look at how things kind of happened for them during the season, I know this is kind of a very, I wouldn't say probably an unpopular point, is that they kind of were neck and neck with each other. And we've talked about this, Wes, where they kind of mirrored each other, but then when it came to postseason play, they kind of split and went different ways. And I think that with Coach Neighbors losing is, such a talented scorer over the last couple of years with Chelsea Dungy and trying to replace her, and losing Sasha Goforth. And I'm not trying to make any excuses, but I feel like he's kind of underperformed a little bit this year with this team and this roster, because you look at the type of roster that he had built. You were projecting them to be a 6, 7, maybe 8 seed going into the tournament from the first of the year, and they cracked the top 25 a couple of times. I've talked to Ethan Westerman from the Democrat Gazette, and we've had some discussions about this too. And he said it can't, for some reason, Neighbors just cannot catch fire with this group quite yet. We'll see what class he brings in next year, but kind of prognosticating there a little bit. But with the job that Mike Neighbors has done this year, I think he's kind of underperformed a little bit, and not from a coaching standpoint, but from getting all the pieces in the right places, scoring. And that also, a coach can put a player in their spot and tell them exactly what to do. It's on the player to go perform it. And I think that that's where some of the drop off is, because this team is having to gel a little bit. They're having to gel a little, taking a lot longer to gel than what he anticipated. And I think that that's why you see Arkansas in the NIT playing, instead of, like Don Staley said at the SEC tournament, Ethan Astor, do you think Arkansas is an NCAA tournament team? And she said, most definitely, they're battle tested. Like I know it's kind of a cliche word, but it fits here. And she felt like they were a team that should be in the tournament because they're a formidable opponent. NCAA selection committee didn't think so, and they sent them on packing to the NIT. And you have to kind of sit back and wonder, okay, Coach Neighbors has got, X amount on this roster, starts to improve. Is he on the hot seat a little bit? We'll have to see. I do want to see Arkansas do make a good run here in the NIT. If anything else, it's given these ladies a lot more experience, a few more home games. Never hurts anybody. And like you said, with Katrina over at Memphis, really packing that place out. Let's see if Arkansas can too.
I think they can, and to be honest with you, man, I think they should. I think when you look around campuses, not only at Arkansas and Memphis, but if you look at campuses around the nation, I think women's sports is something that is really undervalued, I think, on a lot of campuses. And it gives these women who have bust their ass, both in the classroom and on the court, a chance to continue to play a game that they love. And they also know, just like we do, that the amount of them to go to the next level is extremely small. Minute is really the term to use for it. And they know this could be their last chance. This could be their last shining moment, since it's National March Madness time, to use that moniker.
Yep.
Their last shining moment. But Jason, when you look at the both these programs, specifically in the NIT, I think what it does is it continues to boost the confidence for both programs, because you are in a postseason tournament. And I understand the NIT is not the NCAA. But what it also does is, like we spoke to coaches at the end of the Conference USA tournament, those teams were probably done playing. I know one of them was. It gives you a chance to go, hey, let me go find something positive in this video that I can turn around and go back in the film room and go, hey, we may have lost today, but let's take this 5 minutes. Let's take this 7 minutes. Let's take this stretch of plays that were really good, and let's use it for next season and get better.
Yeah, the NIT is kind of like a sour gummy worm in a way. Now I'm gonna give you. I promise I'll wrap this up real nicely. It's like a sour gummy worm. It's really sweet because you're able to get some extra playing time. You're able to progress that core of the team and catapult that into the next season. But at the same time, you got that sourness of y'all didn't get picked to go to the NCAA tournament, and you got some extra games, but you're playing lesser opponents than we might have been playing during the regular season. You need to take that sourness and you need to turn that into a positive whenever you hit the floor back in this coming October. And I think that and I personally like sour gummy worms, because who doesn't? They're great. They're a great treat. And when you look at making sure that this team can take the loss of not making the tournament, making a deep run in the NIT tournament, you can catch both of them in really set yourself up for a great season next year.
You really can, Jason. You really can, man. As we wrap this thing up tonight, we're at 4-Star Sports Media presented to you by Heritage Fence for any fencing needs, whether that's custom, iron. I mean, it doesn't matter. Wood, the fancy fence, whatever it's called. I don't know. They got a bunch of fancy names for it. If you need fencing done in the Memphis area, reach out to Heritage Fence, Corey McCrone, John Michael Holly. Reach out to them at Heritage Fence TN on Facebook. You can also go to heritagefencellc.com for more information. Tell them 4-Star Sports Media sent you, and they may give you a little bit of a discount. But Jason, March Madness is here, man. It really just got cranked up today. Tomorrow is another exciting day of games. Man, it's been a fun night tonight, man. I appreciate you jumping on me and talking a little hoops.
Really quick, Texas might be on an upset alert. Not gonna lie, they're only up by 9 points with 7:56 left against Colgate.
Really, the toothpaste team's getting them a little bit of the Longhorns tonight. Very interesting.
Yeah,
but
kids from New York, upstate New Yorker, trying to get it done.
But for Jason Patterson and I am Wes Pruitt, all of us here at 4-Star Sports Media, we want to say good night and keep on watching hoops, baby.